10 Most Famous Shipwrecks. The most famous, deadly, and unexpected shipwrecks from around the world. The bottom of the world's ocean, and of course the sea, is covered with the remains of sunken ships, some of which are already thousands of years old. Scientists suggest that now about 3 million ships from different parts of the world and different eras are hiding under the water. Many of these wrecks have become historically significant and are even protected by UNESCO as part of the World Cultural Heritage. This international organization seeks to protect the monuments of bygone days from looting and destruction. Moreover, the remains of sailors who gave their lives in the sea battles are still kept on board these ships. We decided to find out at least a little more about the most significant and legendary shipwrecks. Titanic. This is not the largest ship sunk in the history of the Navy. This is not the most unique ship that has ended up on the seabed. This is not the world's oldest shipwreck, but it was the Titanic that became the symbol of all sunken passengers liners. Thanks to the cinema and the talented actors, everyone knows about it. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was the largest liner in the world, which collided with an iceberg on its maiden voyage in 1912. Part of it is still 370 miles southwest of Newfoundland. Now, it is already difficult to find an answer to the question of why the Titanic met with an iceberg. Among the most common theories are crew error, course change, ship malfunction, and fatal negligence. Each of them has their own merits. The wreckage of the ship was discovered in 1985 and rocked the world's community, but every year the Titanic's condition worsens. Of the 1,517 passengers who could not leave the liner, only their shoes remained. Sea animals did not give them a chance to find the rest. But soon the same fate will befall the ship itself, which suffer from bacteria and salt water. Today, the underwater mystery of the Titanic has turned into another tourist attraction. Dona Paz. This humble passenger ship became the deadliest shipwreck in the world. The 1987 disaster killed 4,386 people. Originally, Dona Paz was a Japanese ferry designed to carry only 608 passengers. Dona Paz sailed near Manila when it collided with the Vector oil tanker and caught fire. Both ships sank in the shark-infested waters of Tablas. Now, the ship has remained at the bottom of the ocean at the depth of 545 meters. It is increasingly known as the Titanic of Asia. Joola. This is the second most fatal shipwreck in the world. The Joola ferry belonged to Senegalese armed forces and sank due to human negligence immediately after being refurbished. At the time of the disaster, even according to the most conservative estimates, there were about 2,000 people on board, which was 3 times higher than the permissible limit. It is impossible to know the exact number of victims because most of them were without tickets. Vasa. This giant warship was created for the naval forces of the Swedish king Gustav Adolf. It is ironic that the ship, which was supposed to become the flagship, sank on its maiden voyage just a few kilometers from Stockholm in 1628. The ship never made it to Poland, where Gustav successfully fought at that time. Vasa rested on the seabed until 1961, when it was brought back to land and moved to a museum. Vasa has become the most visited shipwreck in the world, estimated by more than 29 million people. MS World Discoverer. Designed in Germany, this cruise ship was designed for the most remote corners of the planet, including the Falkland Islands and the Arctic Ocean. The ship sank on April 30, 2000, in the bay of the island of Joola, where active military operations were taking place at that time. It is believed that rebels and local pirates quickly robbed the ship. There were no attempts to save the crew and passengers. The captain of the ship managed to survive and still lives on the island of Joola. Captayannis, sugar boat. This is the name of the ship that has survived in the world history. While transporting sugar, this Greek bulk carrier sank in the heart of the Scottish Clyde River in 1974. The cause of the disaster was a Japanese oil tanker, which damaged the bottom of the river. Fortunately, the British tug managed to save the ship's crew. The remains of the sugar boat can still be seen from the shore. Now, the once famous ship has become a haven for birds and marine life. Surprisingly, the ship sank just meters away from the French warship Mail Breeze, which sank during World War II, USS Arizona. This is the most famous and most visited shipwreck in the United States of America. Arizona was sunk during the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor during World War II. Ironically, US President Franklin Roosevelt sent this ship to Hawaii to keep it safe from Japanese aggression. But on December 7, 1941, USS Arizona ended up at the bottom of the ocean. In total, the states lost 1,117 Navy personnel along with the best ship. According to official figures, the flooding of the Arizona was caused by the explosion of powder magazines. The Arizona has become a floating memorial for the victims of Pearl Harbor. But despite the decades that have passed, oil continues to leak from the ship's compartments and poison the environment. Royal Mail ship Lusitania. This is probably the most famous shipwreck in the world after the Titanic. Like the Titanic, the ship was considered the largest on its time, but in 1915, a German submarine fired a torpedo at it. Most of the passengers, 1,198 people, died on the spot. Many historians are inclined to believe that it was the attack on Lusitania that pushed the United States to opposite Germany in World War I. Only in 1982, it became known that this ship had become a well-deserved target of the German military. More than 4 million rifle cartridges were stored in its holds. Schooner Sweepstakes. This schooner has also become one of the most visited attractions in the world. In the Ontario National Marine Park, it has taken a truly deserved place. Sweepstakes sank at Big Top Harbour in 1885. This boat was so popular with tourists that the authorities were forced to surround it with a fence to protect it from curious divers. Bismarck. This huge German battleship was created during the Second World War, but it managed to serve only 8 months. In May 1941, Bismarck was captured by the British Royal Navy. Despite the fact that the Bismarck was one of the largest and most modern warships in Europe, it was powerless over the obsolete British torpedo bombers. After shelling the ship, the Bismarck crew decided to sink the ship so that the battleship would not fall into the hands of enemies. Its remains were discovered in 1989 by Dr. Robert Ballard, the man who discovered the Titanic. Don't forget to subscribe and like it. Thanks for sharing, and bye bye.